I want to transition to the NBA. Last night, the Chicago Bulls traveled to Los Angeles to face the LA Clippers. They're facing the LA Lakers tonight. They beat the Clippers 100 to 90. And it's interesting because the Chicago Bulls. I've done this little exercise the last couple of years, especially since I've started the show, of before the NBA season, kind of picking my surprise team. And this year there was the Chicago Bulls. I thought that coming into this season, the Chicago Bulls were going to be this kind of shocking surprise team in the NBA, at the bare minimum a play-in team with tremendous upside to reach the postseason. I thought they would be a postseason team, at least a play-in team with the potential to be a playoff team. And so far, the Chicago Bulls have been absolutely sensational this year. 9-3, the third best overall record in the Eastern Conference. And last night, it's funny because I'm watching this game between the Bulls and the Clippers, and to the credit of the Clippers, they had been one of the hottest teams in the NBA. They had won 7 straight games. You could argue they were the hottest team in the NBA, and the fact that they're still doing this and still being relevant without Kawhi, the fact that he's injured, and yet basically the same cast of characters from last year's postseason combined with Eric Bledsoe, and this team is a top 5 team in the Western Conference, is very impressive. And the Chicago Bulls go into Staples Center, and from start to finish, they just kind of manhandled them. Yes, the final result was only by 10, but they never trailed in the game. And there's something about the Chicago Bulls that their chemistry just seems to work. And I'll be the first to admit this. I liked the DeMar DeRozan trade during the offseason. I'll be the first to admit I did not envision the DeMar DeRozan trade materializing the way that it has. This guy's been sensational this year. It's almost like he's a transformed person, like he's a new NBA player. He dropped 35 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, but 1 for 1 from 3, 12 for 16 from the floor. And here's the thing, on the season, he's shooting 34.5% from the three-point line, 48% from the floor, 25 points, 5.5 rebounds, 4 assists. Who is this guy? With the points, we always knew were going to be there. He was starting to showcase his facilitating skills a little bit more in San Antonio. But the 34.5%, obviously, it's not a world beater. But from the stigma that we had placed on DeMar DeRozan of who he was and his struggles to shoot from the perimeter to what he's performing this year, who is this guy? I like this guy. I like this version of DeMar DeRozan. He is playing like an MVP candidate. And credit the Bulls organization because they looked at Zach LaVine and they said, hey, listen, we want to show that we're committed to you. So what do? They go out and they sign Nikola Vucevic at the end of last year at the trade deadline. Then this offseason, they sign Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, and DeMar DeRozan. And I love all these acquisitions that they've made because so far they are all impact players. Alex Caruso, I obviously loved him with the Lakers, provides those intangibles, that energy, constant energy and enthusiasm for the game, guts. He's a great defender. He can hit timely shots. Lonzo Ball, of course, I love Lonzo Ball. I have his Lakers jersey in my room. I watched him at UCLA. I think he's one of the best true point guards in basketball. I've maintained that stance. His ability to act as a conductor and to orchestrate an offense, he's so unselfish, and he fits perfectly with this Bulls roster that doesn't need another guard who's a little bit bigger to shoot. That's what you have Zach LaVine for. That's what you've got DeMar DeRozan for. And Lonzo can just be a physical defender who's a really talented point guard to help orchestrate the offense and facilitate for his guys. And again, he's bulked up so much. His shot is looking a lot cleaner. He's shooting it at a 42% clip, which is starting to mirror the production from the three-point line that he was putting out in college at UCLA. So Lonzo's looking really good. And last night, they didn't even have Nikola Vucevic. And they still did this. Kobe White is expected to perhaps make his season debut and his season return tonight against the Lakers. They haven't had him the whole year. Now, how he specifically is going to fit, I'm not sure. That's something that Coach Billy Donovan's going to have to play around with. But you set up all of these pieces around a guy, Zach LaVine, who's still averaging 26 points on 50% shooting. Sure, his three-point percentage is dropping a little bit, but this is a team that has had some big-time wins over Utah, Boston, the Nets, Dallas, and now the Clippers. Not to mention, I really love the rookie Ayo Dosunmu out of Illinois. He's on this roster as well, coming off the bench. I really liked his athleticism and his toughness. He's just a basketball player who has great basketball instincts and a great feel for the game. And I just think having another high IQ player like that who stayed in college for a couple years, so he's going to be a little bit more seasoned entering the NBA, and he's starting to showcase that. He's part of the rotation. And they've already collected high-quality wins this year. Obviously, they face the Lakers tonight, so we'll see how they do there. Selfishly, I would love the Lakers to win, but I'm thrilled to see Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso. I'm sure is going to get a resounding ovation when he steps back into Staples Center tonight. I'm sure he's got a lot of emotions right now. And that's what leads to Billy Donovan, the head coach. And say what you want about Billy Donovan, but he has had a track record of winning everywhere he's gone, whether it was Marshall University, whether it was Florida, where he won 2 national championships, to even in the NBA. His first 5 seasons in the NBA, he was with OKC from 2016 to 2020, never had a losing season, made the postseason all 5 years. Now, it's fair that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook were on that team his first season. Then you had different iterations of Westbrook and Paul George for several years. And then finally, Chris Paul with a bunch of young prospects and castaways were a part of that team as well. And yet they still made the postseason. Billy Donovan is a good head coach. I'm not saying he is a top 5 NBA coach, but this is a really brilliant basketball mind. And just imagine if OKC had been able to break through and beat the Warriors in that 2016 Western Conference Finals when they're up 3-1 and they go on to play in the finals, and let's say they win the NBA championship. Now we're looking at Billy Donovan as an NBA champion head coach. The only time he ever had a losing season was his first year with the Chicago Bulls last year. They were 31-41. They were the 11th seed, and they just missed the play-in tournament last year. And that was that was a team that was kind of beleaguered by injuries. And they were just beset with a lot of different problems going on within that organization. And they just came up a little bit short. And now this year they're 9-4. They got the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference. And this is a legitimate playoff team. I have plenty of friends in Chicago that are extremely bullish about this squad. And to be honest, they should be, because these are all really inspired, really motivated guys, all on the same roster, playing for a huge franchise and a huge organization, an historic organization. They're bringing a little bit of flair and panache. And I like the Chicago Bulls. I do. I really do. And again, I thought coming into this year, this would be a team that at the bare minimum would be a play-in team, with tremendous upside to actually be a postseason team. And nothing has indicated otherwise as of this point.